You are petting your cat. He is lying down, purring, and everything is perfectly fine. Then, without any warning, he bites your hand. Not too hard, but enough to make you pull it back and say something out loud. You pull your hand away, look at him, and he just looks right back at you. He licks his lips and lies down again as if nothing out of the ordinary has happened. You start to think that he is crazy or mean or perhaps just completely unpredictable. However, the truth is that he is none of those three things. What just happened was not an act of aggression, a sudden mood swing, or a betrayal of your trust. It was actually a very precise signal that your cat had been sending you for several minutes before the bite, but you simply did not know the language. The truly strange part is that just 1 second before the bite, he was still purring, which is exactly what confuses people the most. We assume that purring means he is happy, and if he is happy, we can logically continue petting him. This logic seems completely understandable, yet it is entirely incorrect. There is one crucial point that fully explains why purring and biting can exist at the exact same time, contradicting everything you thought you knew about cats. Number 1 is that he did not change his mind, but rather he reached his absolute limit. Let us begin by destroying the main misconception, which is that most people think of a bite during petting as a sudden mood swing. We think he was just happy and suddenly switched to aggression, making him unpredictable, but this is a flawed model. It is precisely this incorrect model that leads to the bite happening over and over again because you are looking for the wrong thing. The correct model reveals that every single cat has a threshold of sensory saturation, which is a matter of basic physiology rather than mood. Touching a cat's skin activates receptors that immediately transmit a signal to its nervous system, where 1 signal or 10 signals feel pleasant. However, after 50 consecutive signals in the exact same spot, the nervous system begins to overload in a process known as tactile hyperstimulation. This is a biological mechanism present in all cats without exception, though thresholds vary significantly between individual animals. The cat did not change his mind. He reached his limit and informed you in the only way that worked, because you missed all previous warnings. This is the key moment to understand, because the bite is never the first signal, but always the very last one. Number 2 explains what happens inside and the physiology of a single stroke, revealing a mechanism that most people have never heard of. A cat's skin is covered with several types of sensory receptors, where some react to pressure, others to movement, and some to temperature. When you pet a cat, you simultaneously activate all these types of receptors. The signals travel to the spinal cord and from there directly to the brain. At the beginning of the petting session, the cat's brain interprets these incoming signals as highly positive. The reward system is activated, endorphins are released, the cat relaxes, and he begins to purr. Everything is going incredibly well, but the receptors continue to work and the signals keep arriving without pause. This is where what neurobiologists call reverse sensory adaptation begins, because at some point, a repeating signal stops reading as pleasant and starts reading as irritating. It is the exact same intensity and the exact same type of touch, but an entirely different interpretation because the nervous system is overwhelmed. There is another factor that is discussed less frequently, which is static electricity. During a long petting session, the cat's fur naturally accumulates an electrical charge. For an animal with skin sensitivity several times higher than that of a human, this is not just a mild inconvenience. It is an actual physical irritation that intensely builds up with every single movement of your hand. By the time the bite occurs, the cat is not actually angry at you at all. His nervous system is literally begging you to stop the physical contact immediately. Number 3 covers the signals that you missed, and you probably missed every single one of them. This changes the entire picture, because before the bite, the cat was telling you that he was approaching his limit for several minutes straight. He used precise, concrete signals that you failed to read, not because you are inattentive, but because nobody ever explained this language to you. The very first and earliest signal always comes from the tail. A tail that was previously lying completely still will start to slightly twitch right at the very tip. Soon after, those movements become significantly wider and much more pronounced. This is not a sign of anticipation or playfulness, but rather a growing irritation of the nervous system expressing itself through the motor channel. By the time the tail is violently thrashing from side to side, the cat is already far beyond his threshold. You must also watch the skin, because if you look closely, the skin on the cat's back will start to slightly twitch or ripple right under your hand. This is a completely involuntary reaction where the muscles under the skin respond to receptor irritation, meaning the cat cannot control this movement. It is a direct physiological signal indicating that the tactile stimulation has become excessive. The ears will also begin to turn, rotating slightly backward at first and then flattening out against the head. Ears pinned back in this specific context do not symbolize aggression, but rather act as a clear sign of escalating discomfort. The animal is quite literally attempting to reduce the total number of incoming signals from its environment. Then comes the head, as the cat begins to turn it directly toward your moving hand. He does this not abruptly, but slowly, and fixes his gaze intently on your hand. This is an orienting response, where the nervous system has identified the source of irritation and is directing all attention to it. This is the final warning signal before the bite, and if you see a turned head with a fixed gaze on your hand, you must remove your hand right now. A bite will inevitably follow in exactly 3 seconds if you choose to ignore this warning. Number 4 reveals the surprising answer as to why he was still purring through all of this. As warned at the beginning, purring is absolutely not a guaranteed indicator of happiness. This is a very common misconception that costs thousands of people a bitten hand every single day. Purring in cats is a vibration created by the rhythmic contraction of laryngeal muscles at a frequency between 25 and 150 Hz. This vibration is triggered in several completely different contexts, including when the cat is happy and relaxed, but also when the cat is sick. A cat may purr when he is terrified, severely stressed, giving birth, or even when he is actively dying. Veterinary studies show that purring in stressful and painful situations is not a paradox at all, but rather a powerful method of self-soothing. Vibration at a frequency of 25 to 50 Hz has a proven physiological effect, stimulating bone tissue, lowering blood pressure, and activating the parasympathetic nervous system. The cat is literally healing himself with purring whenever he feels bad or overwhelmed. When applied to the bite scenario, a cat purring while being petted and approaching sensory overload might continue purring specifically to cope with the growing discomfort. Purring and irritation exist simultaneously, not in spite of each other, but because one is a direct reaction to the other. The cat purred and bit because his nervous system was overloaded, and purring was a way to calm it down, not a confirmation that everything was fine. Purring is not a green light, it is just a sound, so you must read the body, not the sound. Number 5 discusses the love bite, which is a separate topic because it is a different phenomenon often confused with tactile hyperstimulation. Sometimes a cat bites you during petting not because he has reached his limit, but because he genuinely wants to intensify the contact. This is called a love bite or soft mouthing, and it is truly different from an overload bite. To tell them apart, remember that an overload bite is preceded by signals of building tension, such as the tail, ears, and skin. The cat fixes his gaze on your hand, his body tenses up, and the bite can be sharp with a strong grip. During a love bite, the cat's body remains entirely relaxed. The cat does not fix his gaze on your hand as a source of irritation, but continues to look at you or gaze off to the side. The tail is either motionless or moving slightly at the tip without any tension. The bite is more of a gentle grip with the teeth without any squeezing, sometimes accompanied by licking before or after. In feline social grooming, which is mutual care between cats, licking and light biting alternate naturally. This is a normal part of intimate social contact, and a cat doing this is literally including you in his social grooming protocol. He is doing to you exactly what he would do to another cat that he trusts completely. This is not aggression, but rather an inclusion into his personal pack. However, it is important to note that even a love bite has a limit. If you continue to ignore the gentle grips, the cat may move on to applying stronger pressure simply because the previous signal was not read. The logic remains the same. I spoke quietly and you did not hear me, so now I am speaking louder. Number 6 outlines the specific body zones that overload the fastest, providing a map that most people simply do not know. Not all parts of a cat's body are equally sensitive to tactile overload. There are zones that cats accept being touched for a long time, zones that overload quickly, and zones that most cats never want touched regardless of trust levels. Zones of high trust and low overload include the base of the ears, the top of the head between the ears, the area under the chin, and the cheeks. Pheromone glands are located precisely in these areas, so a cat rubbing his head against you is literally marking you with his scent. A cat perceives petting in these specific zones as a mutual exchange of scents, which is a socially significant gesture in his language. The back along the spine and the base of the tail are zones of medium sensitivity. Most cats accept petting here, but this is exactly where static electricity accumulates, making prolonged petting along the back the primary candidate for hyperstimulation. The high-risk zones include the belly, the inner side of the paws, and the tail. The belly is the absolute most vulnerable part of the body. When a cat rolls over on his back and shows his belly, it is a demonstration of deep trust, not an open invitation to pet him there. Most cats that are petted on the belly will inevitably bite or scratch within a few seconds, even if they rolled over on their own. This is not a contradiction, but rather the crucial difference between stating trust and inviting physical touch. Remember one golden rule: the further away you move from the head, the higher the risk becomes. Number 7 provides the practical part on how to pet a cat without getting bitten, offering only methods that actually work instead of general advice. First, you must always start with the head and let the cat rub against your hand initially, allowing him to initiate the contact. Contact initiated by the cat is accepted for significantly longer periods than contact that you start yourself. Second, you need to watch the tail closely from the very first second of interaction. Do not wait until it is violently thrashing, but monitor it from the exact moment you begin petting. A motionless tail or a slow movement at the tip means everything is fine, but a growing amplitude means you must slow down or stop. Third, taking frequent pauses is essential, even if it feels counterintuitive when the cat appears happy. These pauses allow the cat's nervous system to release the accumulated physical tension. 3 or 4 strokes followed by a pause of 2 or 3 seconds creates a rhythm that allows you to continue much longer without reaching the threshold. Fourth, you must frequently change the location of your petting. Do not pet the exact same spot continuously, because receptors in one zone overload much faster if the stimulation is never interrupted. Moving to another zone gives the first area adequate time to properly recover. Fifth, if you see absolutely any of the warning signals, you must be the first one to remove your hand. Do not wait for the bite to happen. Remove your hand, give the cat a second, and if he reaches for you or rubs against you again, you may safely continue. This is not a defeat, but a correct reading of his language, and a cat that is not pushed to the point of biting will eventually trust you more. Number 8 destroys 3 major myths that actively prevent you from understanding your cat. The first myth claims that he bites because he is angry or poorly raised, which is entirely false. Tactile hyperstimulation is not connected to a cat's character or upbringing, but is basic physiology found in every cat. An angry cat and an affectionate cat will bite at the exact same level of overload. The character only affects how high or low the threshold is, not the existence of the biological mechanism itself. The second myth suggests that if he lay down next to you on his own, you can pet him as much as you want. This is false because coming to you for closeness and tolerating physical touch are 2 entirely different decisions with separate limits. A cat that lay on you voluntarily might bite after a minute of petting, and he is not contradicting himself. He simply exhausted the second limit without cancelling the first one. The third myth states that he leaves after biting because he is offended. A cat does not leave after a bite out of resentment, but because the source of the sensory overload continues to exist right next to him. This is not a social gesture, a punishment, or a demonstration of personal dissatisfaction with you. It is merely a physical removal from an overwhelming stimulus, and if you sit somewhere else, he might come right back to you. Number 9 states that the cat cannot be untrained, but you can definitely train yourself. Tactile hyperstimulation cannot be cured or trained away because it is a neurobiological fact, not a behavioral problem. You cannot train a cat to endure overload any more than you can train a human to not feel pain from a deafening noise. What changes with the understanding of this mechanism is not the cat, but you. Owners who learn to read these signals almost entirely stop receiving bites because they finally hear what the cat was saying all along. A cat that feels heard stops screaming and returns to using quiet signals because they finally work again. For cats whose owners stop before the bite, the threshold eventually rises psychologically rather than physiologically. A cat that is never pushed into overload is less guarded, keeping his nervous system in a much more relaxed state overall. In this relaxed state, he will willingly accept much more physical contact, simply because there is no accumulated anxiety. You cannot forcefully change your cat, but you can create the right conditions where he himself will choose to be closer to you. The very next time you are petting your cat, make sure to look directly at his tail instead of his face. He has been telling you exactly when to stop for a long time, but you simply were not looking in the correct place. Write in the comments below if your cat has ever bitten you right in the middle of purring, and tell us how many seconds passed from the start of the petting. Subscribe to this channel because here we explain the things your cat shows you every single day that you mistake for pure coincidence. You were petting him, he was purring, and then he bit you. Now you finally know the real reason why this happens.